episodes only, not like do a complete rewatch like some people. I'll kind of be selective. And this one I have rewatched a couple of times just because I'm a cheesy, sentimental person. And the thing about that we'll talk about later with the deer and how Carl looked at the deer, like it's a cheesy sentiment, but like it gets me every time sometimes just because I think it's so applicable to our lives. And we can talk about that more later, but
I'm tempted to ask you about it now, but I know you're already gonna plan to talk about it later, so we'll hear about it. Cool. So yeah, I mean, did you watch? How was it to watch it again this time?
Yeah, it was interesting. I've forgotten how well, I think it's pretty well paced, but I forgot some of the finer details of how much Shane struggled with Otis at the end.
I know. I forgot about that too.
Yeah.
Punching him and kicking.
Yeah. So it was still a shock when I got to that point. And I think that's why a lot of people love this episode, because it has like the slower moments, but it has this really big climactic scene at the end and, you know, action scenes as well. So it's a cool episode.
So Lucy, what about you?
Oh, it's a good one to come back to. I'd forgotten almost all of the B plots in this episode. I just remembered Shane and Otis. And it was interesting to watch from the perspective of knowing unambiguously what happened and trying to remember what it's like watching it for the first time, not knowing, and how they play it out with Shane arriving on his own, and then the reveal that it wasn't as quick as we thought. It's a smart bit of storytelling and a very compelling episode, I think.
It was, when you think back, you just remember this is the one where Shane shot Otis, and there was a big debate about whether that was okay or not, whether that was the right thing to do. But it was the way it was structured, where it was told out of sequence, really added to it. It really made it a great episode of TV for maximum drama, subverting your expectations. And the pacing with the conversations interspersed with action. It was, I think, one of the better episodes so far of the rewatch, really. Definitely. Season 1 and 2 combined so far. In fact, I think it was a really good episode. So maybe my opinion about season 2 is changing, because I really think this is a great episode of The Walking Dead.
I remember you saying at the start of the rewatch, Jason, that you'd changed your mind about stuff that happens in this episode. I think it was this you were talking about. Will we get into that later?
We will, but I thought I had changed my mind because I remembered being very critical of Shane, and now I think he did the right thing, and I'll say why later. But going back and I just skimmed through some of our original episode on this that Karen and I did back in 2011, and I felt pretty much the same way back then. I was shocked. I was like, oh, I guess I hadn't changed my mind. I already kind of thought, I mean, I think back then I thought maybe it was a little bit more debatable than I do now, but I was still thinking, I can understand why he did what he did, what he thought he had to do to save Carl.
Yeah, it definitely, rewatching it, was more complex than I remembered. I remembered it being just, Shane's a bad guy, he did this, whereas now I'm like, oh no, it was a bit more layered, there were more beats to it.
I mean, I think over time I have disagreed with more of what Shane has done than I've agreed with, and so I think in my mind I just thought, Shane, he was always doing bad things, and then I was like, well, but when I really think about the thing with Otis, maybe he did have a point, and maybe I was too hard on him. But then when I went back and listened, I wasn't hard on him. I felt exactly the same way I do now, pretty much, which is shocking to me.
Do you think it's a shock because it's the first time there's a human on human, attack between the main characters? Like the only other ones are
that's part of it,
Merle and the Vatos, but
it's just, I remember when I first saw that moment, it was so out of the blue. It felt so out of the blue. We were, because I'm just going to go ahead since we're talking about it. When you see Shane in the bathroom looking at himself, he looks haunted. Some shit went down clearly, and he's not feeling good about it. But then you see that he has a spot missing in his hair. And I'd forgotten about this, but when I listened back, Karen and I thought he'd been bitten.
Yeah.
and that now we're going to go see, oh shit, he's bitten and now Shane's going to die and he hasn't told anyone. So then when he
Bitten
goes
on the scalp.
yeah,
Ew.
so then when he just turns and goes sorry and shoots Otis in the leg, without having a chance to process, I'm pretty sure I just thought, oh wow, Shane is bad. That was just my thought. Like I didn't even process why he would even think to do that. I just thought evil, evil, evil. And then, you had to think about it a little bit. And why the hell did you do that? Watch the episode again. But it was so shocking. Yeah, it was so out of the blue. And yeah, just to kill someone like that was very shocking.
But I'd forgotten how traumatized Bernthal plays it as well when he gets back to the farm. Like, he's not okay back at the farm. Like, he's shell-shocked from what he's done. And that hit different rewatching it. I remember being very like, oh, this is Dark Shane. This is Dark Shane. I think Dark Shane doesn't shoot Otis. I think Dark Shane comes from shooting Otis, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's a hardening rather than like his evil side came out and he shot him. Yeah. It's more he shot him, he looks inside himself, and then things get fucked up.
This is the start of his unraveling almost. Or like, it's like a organic regression kind of.
Yeah. It sort of untaps the beast.
It's similar, I think, in a way, not exactly, but, we're seeing Carol and she seems so meek all the time. And it's so weird because that's not how we're used to her. And I think her formative moment was seeing Sophia come out of the barn that started her change, but I don't think it happened overnight. And I think it's sort of like that with Shane here. It's still, I think Shane's transformation is quicker, but it still doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, like he's not like, I'm a badass now, I'm just going to kill whoever. He's like, oh my God, what just happened?
He comes back and they're like, we got clothes for you. They're Otis's. I'm like,
tragic irony.
No, awful. And he's standing in the bathroom, like, in his incredibly like fit sculpted body, like, yes, I have to wear these shitty dungarees now. It's not good looking.
Yeah, and we only can take something different away in retrospect when Maggie says they're Otis's clothes. Like, at first it's sad, but now it's like, oh, he must be feeling so guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we didn't know yet, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know he'd killed him when she said that. We knew that he probably felt bad about having lost him.
Yeah.
And the whole like shaving of the head is so symbolic / cathartic in that moment. Like, he's trying to, it's like, it makes me think of like Lady Macbeth trying to wash her hands of the blood in Macbeth after all the murders, and it's him getting rid of that stink of guilt. But the things details that I noticed, if we're getting into it about that I'd forgotten, are one, that Shane is badly injured. Like, he's quite hobbled by having gone over his ankle. So in that sense, he and Otis are much more equal than I remembered them being. I just remembered it as like Otis is weighing him down, so he literally just shoots him. But no, actually Shane is, it becomes apparent at a certain point, I think, that only one of them is going to get out. And at first, Shane is like, you go without me. Like, leave me here. Oh, Otis, I bet you wish you'd said yes. Yeah. And then the two of them get on quite well. And the Otis is actually quite smart in the plans that he makes. And he says, you go here, I'll go there. I'll draw them away from you. He saves Shane's ass a couple of times. I'd forgotten all of those little details that make it more shocking. Like, in my head, I was like, oh, of course Shane was going to do that. He's evil. Whereas this, I'm like, oh no. Oh my God. This is more complex than I remembered it being. And more complex, I think, than like some of the bad seasons of The Walking Dead would have had it be. Like, the middle, the saggy middle of The Walking Dead may not have had it be as nuanced.
Here's why I think he's right. Because Carl's dying. He's having seizures. If Carl doesn't get back soon with the respirator, then Herschel's going to have to operate without it, and he'll probably die, almost surely die. Shane and Otis have this respirator. They have meds, but they're stuck. Shane hurt his leg, like you said. He's severely hobbled. At times he's just not even limping. He's just hopping on his good leg. He fell down, and dragged Otis down with him. And he's so hobbled that he's ready to give up
Yeah.
and says, we're not going to make it. You go without me. And Otis says, no, I'm not leaving you behind. We got to try. So he was ready to sacrifice himself. And, I think a lot of people thought, and me included, I mean, everybody considered, well, maybe they could have just tried to outrun the zombies anyway. And I think that the writers intended it to be that wasn't an option. I think, of course, when we see a zombie setup like this, we're always thinking about what could they have done differently. But I think that the point of the way this was set up was not to say what else could they have done. The question was, they only had 3 choices that Shane did. He could allow the zombies to overtake them and kill them both. He could sacrifice himself to distract the zombies so Otis could get away and save Carl. He kind of tried that, but Otis said no. He could shoot Otis to distract the zombies so he could get away. So like you said, Lucy, I think the way the writers wanted it was that only one of them was going to get out of there, or neither of them. If he picked the first choice, they would both die, and Carl would probably die too. He did try to choose the second choice and sacrifice himself, to his credit. And so the question is, given that he only had 2 choices, to either let them both die or to kill Otis so he could save himself and Carl, did he pick the right choice? And when you frame it that way, it's obvious that it's the right choice to me. It's either save Shane and Carl or save no one. Those are the 2 choices. You know what I mean? I mean, the only third choice potentially is for Shane to just go, fuck you, Otis, and throw his backpack at him and then run over into the zombies himself. That is a third choice. And, it's maybe riskier because he's not in control of what Otis does after that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is he knows he can do it.
Yeah.
Does he know Otis can do it? So we've turned into a pro-shaning podcast, everyone. So never come on vacation with us.
One of my...
Because if you make us late for the buffet, we will fuck you up.
Because the question, I mean, some people might say, hey, Shane chose to sacrifice Otis in favor of Carl, so he chose Carl over Otis. But that's not right. It's either none of them or Shane and Carl. Those are the 2 choices,
All or nothing kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Let's have Karen chime in. You're supposed to be the guest of honor, and we just leapt right in. But why don't you chime in either with your thoughts on this, or if you want to do another point?
No, I think you guys pretty much covered it because since we already know in retrospect that Shane shot Otis, we can still admire the episode because of the way it's structured. Like you said, it slowly disseminates and releases this information to the viewer with cross-cutting to delay the impact of that climactic moment. And with all the slow burns with the other scenes and pairs of characters that we follow, this climax makes it everything more explosive. And one of my points is that where did it go? Sorry. That I was gonna say Chekhov's shaved head. It's another bookending technique, right? The book ending,
because we were left with a cliffhanger at the end of last week's episode with Shane and Otis just trapped behind a bunch of zombies, and then you see Shane in the bathrooms what happened?
And it could be anything, for we don't know Carl's alive.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, is when we see that, we're like, why is he so sad? Is Carl dead?
Yeah.
What's happened? Anything could have happened.
Yeah. And did you guys pick up the opening frame of this episode? I never noticed that picture that hangs in the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
It says, wherever you wander, wherever you roam, be happy and healthy and glad to come home. And it's such a great juxtaposition to Shane coming back to the farm without Otis and having done this really shocking thing. And the picture takes on meaning only when viewed in retrospect, kind of.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love the whole greenhouse, actually. I was thinking that today. I love the kind of weird oldie-timey picture portraits of people in their family, all the old vet equipment, the kind of kitschy farmhouse stuff.
Yeah.
I just love it as a set. I'd love to visit it.
Yeah, it's lived in. It looks...
Yeah, I mean, it's... I was going to say, I'm pretty sure all of that was actually filmed in the farmhouse, not on a set. I think that's true, yeah.
So maybe it was the families.
No, I think they had to redress all of it, but yeah, I think it was all in the farmhouse. I'm pretty sure.
It made me think of 12 years in the future when Connie and Virgil are stuck in the horror house.
Oh, yeah.
And how that was probably a nice farmhouse once with the eyes scratched out and stuff. And I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I realized from this episode and from coverage of Dead City, and it definitely does happen in the comics, but we do have confirmation of it in the show, that Maggie must go back to the farm at some point and collect things or see things, because she talks about taking Herschel there, baby Herschel. And that made me kind of sad when she was looking at the pictures on the fridge, thinking, oh, she's going to come back here and her life's going to be very different when she's next.
I mean, I did think, okay, can't they just let the herd pass and go back to the farm? But I think there's some Fear the Walking Dead style geography thing where there was like water around the farm keeping the Zeds away, but then it dried up a certain time of year or something like that.
Stupid summer.
So anything else on that, Karen?
I think we kind of already talked about it, but one of my subpoints or questions was, why do we still root for Shane? Is this the start of a tragic hero? And I think it's because the character devolves into something far scarier than the walkers. Like, it's a human that has agency. At least for the first 2 episodes of this season, like you guys already talked about it, Shane seems to be more practical than Rick, right? Mm-hmm. So we root for him. He has this attitude that he's made for the apocalypse. Like, he has the right mindset for the apocalypse, and that's why Rick starts with that whole story about the Hyundai Coupe.
I love the Hyundai product placement. He's like, the gas car, a Hyundai.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of episodes of this season, as I've talked about on the previous 2 podcasts, are Rick fretting over his decisions and making, I think, a really bad decision to leave Sophia under that tree, but also, bring Carl with them to find Sophia, and then he gets shot, and just other little things too, whether he should go try to find Shane or not, just really stressing that he's doubting himself and other people may be doubting him too. So that sort of brings him down a little bit, his leadership cachet, I guess. And in that context, Shane, this is all about him. And so I think the idea is to compare and contrast, and also to start Shane down this path where when he's in the bathroom looking at himself in the mirror and he's really holding his own eye contact, to me, that's like, yeah, I feel really bad about what just happened, but he's not ashamed of it. Like, when you're ashamed, you can't look yourself in the eye. But he's just sort of coming to terms with, this is the world we live in, and this is how it's going to have to be now. And so I think starting the 2 episodes with Shaky Rick and then having this is setting up a whole season of contrast between Shane feeling like he's the kind of leader who can keep more people alive than Rick can, and then the whole Randall thing comes in, and they're on different sides of that. And I forget what else, but I'll be interested to look and see. But I just feel like that's kind of the crux of season 2, is Rick style versus Shane style. So that when we get to the point where Shane decides it's in everyone's best interest to kill Rick, it makes sense from his point of view, thinking that, more people are going to live with me as leader. And that's why for the rest of The Walking Dead, we always thought, well, how would Shane handle this? That's why that Walking Dead Destinies game that came out has such a great idea to take things that happen in The Walking Dead, but you get to make different choices. And one of the choices in that game is to have Shane survive instead of Rick. But unfortunately, they sucked, and it wasn't done well, because I think it's a great idea, and we always wonder, what would Shane have done in this situation? And then you see how many people did die under Rick. And of course, it's a zombie show. People are going to die. But you just sort of wonder, how would things have gone with Shane? Maybe he would have been a better leader. I don't know.
Yeah, the whole thesis of season 2, I think, is survival of the fittest to retain your physical self or your soul. And we see that Shane, I think a lot of people still root for Shane because Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like, he's taking care of like your physical self, like, and that's more important than, or like, it's more logical and practical. And then you can worry about like making a new world later in season 9 or whatever.
Yeah, because if
8.
you're dead, then nothing else, you can't really do anything else.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of what you're saying, right? Like you have to be alive to.
Yeah, so it's more concrete and people like understand that easier.
I think as well in this episode we see the start of Rick's obsession with finding a place. The place. He starts to he talks to Laurie about it of like, maybe we'll find a place like this, maybe this, I don't know, a place. And that becomes his fixation, is if he can find a home, if he can find a place for people to be, he can make this safe place. And that's Rick's kind of arc for the rest of his time on the show, is all about this fixation with a location. Like that will solve everything, that will be the solution to the problem. And he's not wrong necessarily. Like a safe place will solve a lot of their problems, but he's often in pursuit of that over some of the things that are more immediate, and Shane is dealing with like immediate problem solving.
Yeah.
It interested me that I could not remember, I think we spoke about this on the last week's podcast episode, about me being annoyed that Laurie then changes her mind and is like, Shane, stay, don't go away, Shane, stay forever. That's not a direct quote, she doesn't actually say that. And I'd forgotten completely that this episode is where she first says it, and it's because he has in effect saved Carl. And I'm toying with a different reading of it, which is what Shane did to Laurie at the CDC is unforgivable. It's one of the lines that you should never cross in terms of sexual assault of another human being or any kind of assault like that. However, of all the things he could do to earn her forgiveness, saving her son's life is probably high up there. So is that her way of saying we can move forward from that? Or is it something more deeper and emotional coming from her about her feelings about Shane, or is it about Carl? So that gave me pause, that this was the first moment in which she says it. And is that just a knee-jerk response to what he's done, or is it what she actually feels? And I'd forgotten that the two were kind of connected in that way.
I'm just so far from her, I'm just getting Shane and Carl have a connection. Shane just saved Carl's life. Shane should be here with Carl. You can stay. I'm not getting anything about, I still have feelings for you, Shane. I'm still keeping my eye open for that, because I think it could be read that way depending on how it goes in the future. But I don't necessarily see any of that from Laurie right now. I think it's all about
I'm leaning
Carl.
more away from it too. Yeah, I'm more like, oh, okay, it's tied up in that then.
We'll see. It could... You never.
In the next episode, when she turns up in sexy underwear and says,
him or something.
"Stay in the tent with me, Shane," then we'll know it's sexual.
And about Rick thinking a place can solve all their problems, I don't think he thinks that. I think it's part of it, but he's talking about this deer. You know, he's just trying to. A good leader envisions a more positive future and then focuses people on that to try to achieve it. And I think that's what he's doing. She's just like, you know, what are they 3 days in? And she's like, it's all hell. We should just give up. Yeah. And it's like, well, maybe we should hang out and see if we can do something, you know, and a place, having a place is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need security first, and then you can do the other things. But he's also focused on beauty, and it's all about that deer. And I'm like, it's a good thing they didn't see the season 8 deer, because then you'd be like, oh, there's no beauty.
Mom, I saw it. It was fucking terrible.
I just want to die now, Mom.
Let me die. You should have seen it, Mom. It was crap.
I've given up on that.
Laurie's like, right, that's it. Pull the plug. Do the surgery. I don't care. I'm out.
He talked about the deer, Laurie. He hated it.
He said it was garbage, Rick. He's like, oh, yeah.
So anyway, where are we? Who do you feel like, Lucy, you haven't really done a point. Do you want to do a point?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of riffing on about Shane. Let me just check if I've got anything else to add to that. I guess that leads us kind of into Rick and Laurie's dilemma, which I think is going to feed into Karen's feelings about the episode, which I'm really keen to hear. But Laurie puts it to Rick that, is this a world for children anymore? And it's not so much that it's crossed her mind, it's that she can't stop thinking it. And she needs Rick to tell her why it would be better another way, i.e. why would it be better for Carl to live rather than die? And I remember being really impacted by this the first time I watched the show, because I was like, holy shit, it's two parents talking about the potential loss of their child.
As a positive.
Not as a, yeah. Well, not, yeah. I don't even know if it's
guess.
a positive so much as like a release or a relief for the child. And I tried to think about where Carl goes after this relative to, you know, what Laurie predicts for him, which is like a life of pain and running and hunger and fear. And I thought about Carl at Alexandria and how happy he and Rick and Michonne are for a really kind of brief time. And I thought, how much longer in the show does he actually live? It's a couple of years. I mean, I know Chandler Riggs, you know, ages about 6 years in the time that we see them, but he does have some moments of beauty. He gets to have a relationship with Judith. He gets to
has a relationship with Enid a little bit, right? Do they
little
actually
relationship
have a
with Enid?
boyfriend
They have a little
girlfriend
smooch.
relationship? Yeah,
they have a little smooch in a tree. And he saves Sadiq. He saves a lot of different people. So I'm sort of thinking to myself, like, no, I'm with Rick, but from where Laurie's standing, I can also see her point, which is a point of great despair and great fear. And yeah, I just sort of thought I would bring it up because I figured we would all have thoughts on it. I thought Sarah Wayne Callies and Andrew Lincoln acted the hell out of it, and it must have been really difficult material to work with. But I thought it was a brave thing to write, because I don't think that Laurie is evil or morally bad to voice those fears. I think it's understandable given the situation that they find themselves in. But it also is very powerful at the end when you then see that Carl does pull through and you see the joy and relief on their faces. I think it's a nice emotional payoff to the conversations that have come before.
I don't think it's evil, but I don't blame Rick for seeming offended, though. He handled it. He wasn't too forceful about that, you know. He brought it around to the positive, but to be like, what?
Yeah. Did you guys get that Laurie pretty much telegraphs what Shane did in this episode? Because she says she doesn't want Carl to run and run and run, and even if he survives, he ends up just another animal who doesn't know anything but survival. So she's talking about Shane at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that.
But he wasn't.
That's cool.
He got bitten, and then he wrote really nice letters to all the people he cared about and Negan. And so I think he was a warm-hearted person by the end there. You know, he wasn't some animal. He was an animal in season 3. I'm talking about Carl. Where he shot that little kid.
Oh, that moment. Will live on in infamy. Herschel's face, like, I saved this kid. Why? Otis died for you, man.
I approached this scene by also like anchoring it into my reality and my real world. I know that some people like entertainment to escape, and that's totally understandable. And also, I don't know, Jason, if you want to cut this out, but like I looked at the scene with the context of the 2010s, and I'm taking a page out of Penny and Kara's podcast, because they always anchor their podcast in a certain historical time and place. And
which podcast is that?
Still Slaying.
Yeah,
Still Slaying, the Buffy
podcast.
And which network can we find that on? Is it a podcast?
Hyundai.
Website. Podcast.
Hyundai. Sponsored by Hyundai.
So yeah, I took a look at the 2010s and like why the writers might have given this dilemma to Rick and Laurie, and how viewers at that time might have, related to it. So there was the financial crises of 2007 and 2008, the worst depression since the Great Depression in the 1930s. There was Occupy Wall Street with a lot of class divide. There was the Arab Spring with revolutions and political unrest. And there was the war in Afghanistan, was still going, of course. There was the Haiti earthquake in 2010, earthquake and tsunami in Japan in 2011. And then there was a Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. So there was a lot of unrest in the world that persists until now, of course. So the question sadly kind of remains like, why do we keep our children in this world, or why bring one into this world. I don't even know if Lori knew she was pregnant at this point with Judith.
Yeah.
But so I was thinking about it, and my friend who is a climate scientist, she was asked something similar, and she said, well, I brought a child into this world because there are no, guarantees for a smooth life. Lori laments that Carl, if he dies, he never has to be afraid or hungry or angry, but that's the human experience. That's part of living. That's the tax of living. And my friend, and my friend said, well, I don't know, my daughter could be a very mighty person in this world. And on one hand, she's very clear-eyed about all the things happening in the world. She's really sober about it. But then she's also very optimistic that the next generation will be adaptable, just like we see Carl and Judith adapt. And necessity breeds invention, and the kids will learn to survive in the new world.
Yeah.
So,
when we've talked about suicide before, I think a lot of times suicide happens when someone has a drop that has a loss. They lose all their money, they lose a relationship, a family member dies, something like that. But so it feels like you can't handle it because you're not used to it in part. I don't want to minimize what people go through. I'm just trying to analyze the psychology of it. But when you're a child who grows up under certain circumstances and that is what you're used to, then it's probably it's a different story. At least you can say that, like they can adapt. But I think about that as a parent, with especially climate change. That's what I'm the most worried about. What the hell is our future going to be like, and did I do the right thing bringing kids into this reality? So hearing your positive words that come from your climate scientist friend makes me feel better. I appreciate that.
And also in the story, like in the story, Carl is Rick's engine from the start, right? If we lose Carl, what's going to give Lori and Rick inspiration to continue on? I think having a child gives you that.
Or what's going to give viewers any reason to watch this show anymore?
Yeah, and Andrew Lincoln to stay on
season 8, as we know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but yeah. So Rick and Lori, yeah.
Yeah. So I think when you have kids, I don't know, I don't have kids of my own, but I have little people in my life who I love dearly, my nieces, and so like they give you a drive and a purpose to do better, to learn new skills for them, right? But then we have the example of Carol, who lost her child and still the queen of the apocalypse. So I don't know.
I find that so interesting. I think that's such an interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten how much of a theme of is it worth living in this world was in the first couple of seasons. And I remembered, of course, the CDC thing with Andrea wanting to stay and being mad at Dale for kind of manipulating her out of there. But I forgot that Lori was asking these questions, that Glenn and Maggie are kind of talking about it a little bit with religion, and that Andrea's with Daryl and he's asking her if she still wants to live. And she says it's just like I don't know if it's just a habit at this point, which I think sort of explains why she's still not ready to forgive Dale, because she doesn't even know for sure if she wants to live. And I felt like, cut him a little break. But I guess, if you're just not sure if you're in a living hell, but you just live out of habit, then hopefully, I don't remember if she ever does, but I would hope at some point when she does finally decide, or if she does finally decide that she wants to live, that she might say, okay, Dale, I forgive you.
Yeah.
But anyway, thinking about like whether it's worth living in the world, and how that's, I'd say over time, an ongoing concern in The Walking Dead. But it's interesting how over time, that like hearing Rick talk about this deer and equating that with beauty in life and that there are things worth focusing on living for. And then you see over the course of The Walking Dead, as they become more acclimated and as more time passes, that they have cocktail parties and they have like feasts and they have romance, later on. And I was actually glad. I remember thinking for the first several years of the show that there wasn't much romance. There was some, but not a lot of focus on it. But then when they started focusing on it more later on, like with Eugene and what's that girl's name? Stephanie. Yeah, Max. That it made more sense then because they had figured out how to live in the world and now they're ready. Like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They've for the most part satisfied the lower parts and now you need to be fulfilled in the arts. There's people playing music and stuff like that. So just thinking about what's ahead to me validates my stance that at least try to make it through the hard times because there's good times ahead. Although, I don't know, people are always dying throughout the whole series too. So,
hey, life is a terminal condition.
Yeah, so. That's right. Yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, all the scenes kind of dovetail with each other, like you said, Jason. It's all about having faith in humanity and hope.
And I liked what Maggie said to Glenn. I know it's not my business and feel free to believe in God, but the thing is, you've got to make it okay somehow, no matter what happens. I wasn't exactly sure. It seemed like I don't even know if she was responding to him or what she felt coming from him, or maybe I didn't quite understand it. But what I get from that is just like, you gotta make it okay no matter what happens, That's kind of what Rick is saying. Like that would have been good advice for Lori from Rick, maybe. And then he turns around and helps her too, which was really beautiful.
I don't really understand that line either, but I guess it's like, don't let the world completely crush you or literally consume you. So
yeah. And that you kind of have to make the best of it, I think.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to live within the life that you have and the conditions and limitations of the way that you have. But I'm with you, Karen. I felt the first time when I was listening to it, I was like, what is she talking about? But yeah.
He doesn't care.
He's just like, okay, farmer's daughter, I love you.
I want to talk a little bit about just the impact of the moment, because it's a big holy shit moment in The Walking Dead. And the way that they, like I said, subverted your expectations, thinking that we were going to see him getting bitten, or at least see Otis, just killed by zombies in an accident or whatever, and then have it be that. And I was looking through some of my previous notes and saw that in episode 437 of this podcast, we did top 5 standout moments in The Walking Dead. And one of mine was, it wasn't Shane shooting Otis, it was Shane getting his hair cut after killing Otis. I just felt like that stood out to me even more, because that was the birth of Dark Shane, or the start of that. And I don't know why that scene really stood out. But also going through my notes, I've referred to a few other moments as Shane Otis moments. Like when Negan could have saved Maggie in the subway tunnel, but let her fall to the zombies. Turns out no one thought that was a very big deal for some reason. But in the moment, it seemed like
I did.
The
characters didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. On Fear the Walking Dead, there was a nuclear sub when Strand pushed Morgan into a bunch of zombies and said, "You didn't want any of us to die. You're going to get your wish." I don't understand what that was all about. It was confusing, but I think the idea was if Morgan died, it would save the others or something. So that felt like an Otis moment. Or when Daryl is carrying Judith after she was shot by Pamela in season 11.
Yes.
I thought that was kind of like when Rick was carrying Carl after he was shot by Otis. So that's not a Shane Otis moment, but it's Otis related. So anyway, I just feel like more than I had realized that we referred back to this moment because it was a big deal.
I remember it being like a cultural zeitgeisty moment on like Twitter and stuff, talking about shaning somebody. I remember, I don't even remember the content. Actually, this is a terrible anecdote. You probably want to cut this, but this is like the early days of Twitter, so like 2011, and there was a comedian in the UK called Sarah Millican who tweeted something about a board game or a Walking Dead situation, and I replied to it, and she asked me if I'd shamed my partner, and I was like, ha, 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 I would shame him if he did that. And I remember being very pleased that A, I got a tweet from Sarah Millican, and B, that shaming was becoming a verb. And yet it didn't stick around.
You got to bring him back.
Yep.
I think Lucy touched upon the visual cues of the shaved head. For one, it started the Bernthal head rub that you guys talked about last week.
Yeah.
He's already been doing it, but it feels more pronounced now.
Yeah.
And also it's like military look, so it's like a war footing kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, so it's I said it's associated, shaved heads are associated with military athletes, symbolizing strength, vitality, and vigor, a signal of dominance. And Lucy, you said like taking control of their own body image, him washing away that guilt of killing Otis. And proving to themselves that they're in control, that they can, control what they look like, and cementing a new identity. So there was before Otis and after Otis.
Yeah, just the fact that it was a change to something else.
And to hide something.
Yeah. Well, he hides a lot because the bigger sin is that he keeps lying about killing Otis.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh God, his lies are not great. So, and then he ran up, and I was like, oh, and he's like, you must go, Shane, you must live. And I was like, okay, Otis, I'll go live now. And then he died. Oh no, it's so sad. And I'm like, that was kind of an epic lie there.
But he's like, I did what I could, he told me to go on and he covered me, and so I did. And he's lying, but I think the sentiment is true. Like, I did what I thought I had to do, and I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
What else? Do you have any more points? Yeah,
about Daryl and Andrea's scene. You already talked about it, Jason, but that line that she says about living, if she wants to live, or if it's just a habit, it sounds simple, but it's really profound. And my takeaway from it isn't so extreme, like we don't have to talk about life and death, suicide or not, but I appreciate Andrea's line because I always try to challenge myself and question if I'm living my life the way that I want to, or that I'm proud of, or that that resonates with me. And so I try to constantly ask myself, like, what are my values? Have they changed? Do I still believe in X, Y, and Z? Or am I just doing it because it's comfortable, or if it's a tradition, or if it's for instant or external gratification? Yeah. Because I think a lot of our lives are on autopilot just by muscle memory and like being pulled by a tide, like she says, out of habit. And patterns are like really, really hard to break.
Yeah.
With her, I mean, what you're saying resonates with me more in the context of the monotony and drudgery of our day-to-day existence, laundry, dishes.
Yeah.
But with her, it's zombie apocalypse, so it's
That's
not
true.
quite like, oh yeah, today I had to shove a bunch of bodies out of the way or whatever. I don't know.
That's true.
But it is, what's easier, what's, am I really just living because I want to live, or just because it's the most comfortable, easy thing to do? Like, just choosing what you actually want.
Yeah.
And maybe she's thinking she's afraid to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she doesn't know in this moment.
I thought the scene with Daryl and Andrea was I'd completely forgotten about it. But it was quite an interesting two-hander to kind of have in this episode about life and being on the edge of life and death and what that means and how that plays out. I thought the poem was hilariously terrible on the tree, like got bit world gone to shit. I was like, oh, it's a good thing this guy didn't try and commit to life as a poet. But I thought Andrea, I think I'm with Andrea. I think I would have wanted to put that guy out of his misery.
Yeah, I admired her. I liked
an answer for an arrow. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I did laugh when Daryl said it was when she was throwing up, and he's like, "That's revenge for laughing about my itchy ass." And you get more of a sense of Daryl as a person here and why he's so invested in Sophia because of the neglect he suffered with as a child, and that kind of very simple line about Sophia's at least got people looking for her, which he didn't have. And I think there's a lot of kind of psychology and pop psychology at the moment about sort of reparenting yourself and you know, doing what you were not shown as a child or what you didn't understand as ways to parent as a child. And I think with Daryl, a lot of his journey is about that, the reparenting of both himself and the relationships he goes on to have as a mentor to younger people, and how he then is able to step up to the plate for Judith and RJ when the ones who leave. That's their new name. Yeah. I'm like, they're never not going to be the ones who leave.
In particular, when Judith runs away in season 11 and he finds her in the church and tells her about the time that he used to always go back to the river when his dad would be drinking. And you get in that his dad was a total fucking asshole and he doesn't want to be that kind of a parent. And that totally echoes what's happening right now with Sophia, just feeling like, I don't want other kids to have to go through what I went through.
And that's such it's a healthy thing to come from a very unhealthy situation. Yeah. And I think it's really admirable. It's something I really like about Daryl and I find it really funny when people are like, but Negan's good with kids. I'm like, yeah, but Daryl is genuinely really good with kids because he knows what it's like to be a shittily treated kid, which is something
Negan
that
was
a lot
about
of people
to
don't.
Fucking kill Carl with a bat until Shiva jumped in and saved him. So
yeah, you know who's good with kids? Shiva.
But I do the same thing. I try, like, I didn't have a father figure growing up. I had some bad stepfathers, and so I try not to be like that at all with my own kids, you know? And so this, like, I'm having such a different relationship with Daryl now than I did going through the first time. It's way more admiration.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that because your first son hadn't been born when you were podcasting.
He was just born. He was, like, at this point, less than a year old. Or
it's funny
because
Kirkman's relationship to the comic changed when he had a kid as well. Like, I remember him saying in interviews, like, there's stuff in the first 50 or so issues that he's like, now that I'm a dad, I couldn't write that. I couldn't put people through that. And I'm like, oh, that's really nice. Much as I hate the kind of when people are like, as a parent, I'm like, no, we can all still have thoughts and feelings about things. But I do think there must be a shift in your relationship with your art and your outlook on things when your world changes so dramatically. But
I want to put it out there that even though Lucy doesn't like when people say as a parent, I like it.
As a parent, I like it.
As a parent, I really like that.
I don't like
we all
it
have our
either.
Perspectives.
I mean,
when I think about that, I'm like, okay, what if I didn't like it when someone said as a woman? Why do you get to have a special perspective just because you're a woman and I'm not? Well, we all have our perspectives.
It's not so much as a parent, it's what usually follows it. It's usually something like, as a parent, I found watching that child massacre really difficult. And I'm like, oh, I fucking loved it. Like, I had no problem with it.
It's the assumption that follows from,
Yeah, I think that's it. I think you can definitely position yourself and say, as a parent, I feel X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, that's totally cool. But it's when the intimation after it is,
you wouldn't understand.
You are not a parent. You wouldn't understand. I'm like, no, sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes I'm like,
But my therapist years ago told me, your partner should be more important to you than your child. And I'm like,